I think I'm on. Hi, everybody. Some of you might know me. Some of you probably do not. I'm the legal counsel for the International Ice Hockey Federation. Today, I'm going to talk to you about integrity in ice hockey. This will not be an in-depth education about ice or integrity. It'll just kind of give you guys an overview, kind of give you an idea what to look out for and how this topic affects you. So there's three main, I guess you could say, areas of integrity in ice hockey. First of all, it's competition manipulation, betting on ice hockey, and insider information. So sports betting is gambling money on the outcome of or action in a game or other unpredictable sports event. Competition manipulation is improperly influencing the result or course of the game for advantage. And insider information is sensitive information, such as knowing a player is injured, that you are aware of due to your position, such as a player, a coach, a trainer, official. It's not the idea of having the insider information that is wrong, it's what you do with that insider information that is wrong. So first of all, we're going to talk a little bit about betting in ice hockey. So I'm sure most of you know what betting is and the basic concept of betting and how it works. So it's just predicting results and placing a wager on the outcome. The bookmakers will accept wagers on different sporting events. They'll set initial odds. The odds are based on a probability allocation. The probability allocation is based on their experience, how the game proceeds, and a payout ratio. So betting initially, or betting in ice hockey, used to be very different. Before the invention of the internet, it was just a standalone shop where people would go bet, and it was very easy to control. However, with the invention of the internet, not only has there been a greater amount of betting, you can bet across jurisdictions, but also the types of betting has changed. Historically, you could bet on the result of a game, or maybe, to be honest, it used to be just who would win the game or who would lose the game. But now they have what's called side bets. You can bet on pretty much anything in ice hockey. You can bet on who will score, who will make the first score, who will have the first penalty, what the first penalty will be, who will be the last team to score, the reasons for the next whistle, the first team to get 3 goals, the first one team will win the first period by 3 goals. Pretty much now there are any types of bets that you can find on ice hockey. And with this betting, it's live in-play betting, which is what the internet allows. You can bet throughout the course of an ice hockey game. This kind of shows that betting in ice hockey has increased over the last few years. This shows the increase of the products that bookmakers are providing. That increase in product is directly correlated to the demand. More people are betting on ice hockey, so therefore bookmakers are offering more products in ice hockey. As you can see, bets are placed on all of the IIHF major events in the World Championship. In 2014, it was reasonable, but you can see that every single year, not only are our World Championships increasing, but also the under-20s and the under-18s. This also shows you that ice hockey is the most bet-on sport in the Winter Olympics. For men and women, while not the top most bet-on sport, are also very, very high compared to the rest of the sports. So betting kind of operates in 3 distinct planes. First of all, you have the legal and regulated markets, where it's legal to bet in ice hockey, but it's completely regulated. There's laws and there's rules which control what you can or cannot do. And then there's the gray market, where it's legal but not regulated. And then you have the complete illegal market, such as the United States, where it's supposedly completely illegal. This kind of shows how different it is across the world with respect to the countries that allow it, the countries that don't necessarily have rules against it but don't regulate it. It's very patchwork. There's no common laws or common rule across all of the jurisdictions. It's easy to compare rules or the the idea of sports betting to doping in sports, where we have a common code. We have the WADA code, which controls across all jurisdictions. And UNESCO and all of the, the international treaties follow this code. But with match fixing, we're not there yet. We're not at a place where there is something common that all of the jurisdictions can implement. Most of them have very different rules. So because there's an increase in betting, there's an increase in the products that are being provided to bet in ice hockey. This has caused an increase in match fixing. Match fixing is corruption. It jeopardizes the integrity of the competition. It damages the very, very soul of the ice hockey event. It damages the social, educational, and cultural values reflected in ice hockey, and it jeopardizes the economic role in ice hockey. If your sporting competition or your team has a match-fixing event, you're going to lose sponsors. Sponsors do not want to be tied to an event or tied to a club that has match-fixing issues. It tarnishes their image. So match-fixing has a real economic a result in ice hockey. The problem is real, even though 99.9% of all ice hockey games are clean. Okay, so there's two types of match fixing. First of all, you have sporting advantage. And this is the time that your club or your team, your net federation or your national team, is going to play a game. And if they lose that game, they're going to play an easier team to get into the finals. That is manipulating for sporting advantage. The second is for financial gain, which is usually what is done the most. And that is you're going to manipulate a game in order to receive some type of financial gain. And the IOC has determined that it is up to the international federations to determine whether manipulating for sporting advantage is or is not illegal. The International Ice Hockey Federation has decided that yes, any type of manipulating a game is illegal. The IIHF does not consider making the decision to lose this game in order to play an easier team to get in the finals is not match fixing. It is match fixing. You're manipulating a game for a reason. So therefore, the IIHF has determined that that is match fixing. So the question becomes, who are the fixers? The idea is, or most people think, okay, it's the players and the officials. They're on the ice. They're the only ones that have any influence over how a game proceeds. But it's really not the case. They may directly influence because they're on the ice, but so many other parties have the ability to influence a game, such as obviously the criminals, the ones who are trying to get the player or the coach to manipulate a game. But it's the club owners, it's the managers, it's the coaches, it's the agents, it's the family members, it's the event organizers, it's the doctors. If you think about it as a coach, you have so much power over how a game proceeds. You decide which players go in. You decide the players. You can influence a player. If you don't do what I want, you don't play. Coaches have so much power over how a game proceeds that match fixers realize this. The criminals realize how much power coaches have, and they directly target coaches to try to get them to fix games. So how do match fixers operate? The most common and well-known is they're going to offer you money. They're going to offer you gifts. They're going to offer you sexual favors. They're going to offer you anything to get you to do what they want. They're criminals. And they can do also indirect approaches, where they can go through your family members. They can go through your friends. They can threaten your family members. And usually match fixing does not happen in isolation. It's not they're going to come to you once and say, hey, will you please fix this game for me? Or here, let me give you a little money. Just don't play your best players. This is something that's going to happen over a very, very long period of time. They're going to groom you. They're going to start out small. They're going to say, hey, you didn't have such a good game. Maybe if you don't play, your team doesn't play so well, you don't get your bonus. So why don't you just, let them not play so well this next game, and we'll give you a little bit of side money. And they do it once. And then the next time, the money's a little bit bigger. And then before you know it, you're in an entire match-fixing scheme, and now you can't get out. Because now they're threatening you. They're blackmailing you. They're saying, hey, if you don't continue, then we'll ruin your career, and you won't have a career anymore. This kind of gives you an idea that match fixing is not simple. It's not, the criminal isn't just going to approach you, or the money guy, as I like to call him, is not going to approach you and It's gonna be simple, one game. It's very complicated. Usually there's a money guy that is maybe in a different location, in a different jurisdiction, on a different continent, and he's fronting the whole deal. And then you'll have like a broker who's the person who will approach you. And then you have the coach, and then the coach will say, okay, I'll fix this game. He transmits the message back to the actual money guy, and then they place bets, and they win a lot of money. It can be very in-depth, and like I said, transnational. You will never see the actual person who's responsible for the whole match-fixing ring, I guess you could say. Okay, so most people think it doesn't happen in ice hockey. We're completely clean. We never have incidents. And we don't have a lot. You're thinking match fixing, that happens in cricket, that happens in football, that happens in rugby. But we've had some incidents of match fixing. For example, we had most recently an incident in the Danish league where the players just simply bet on ice hockey. They didn't know what they were doing was wrong. The Winter Olympics in 2006 were supposedly they match fixed for sporting advantage. This is Oleg, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce names. He was in the NHL and supposedly tied to the mafia and fixing games in the NHL. Operation Slapshot was an undercover investigation in the United States that involved Wayne Gretzky, his wife, a very famous assistant coach, I think for Philadelphia. And they were not betting on ice hockey, but they were essentially creating an underground betting ring where they were betting on football, American football. And then currently today, the IIHF has 2 ongoing investigations. I can't give details because it's ongoing, but one is at a federation level and one is a league level. So it is happening in ice hockey. So we need to be aware of it and we need to stop it. So how do we do that? The first thing is that we have regulations, we have rules. And that is that sport regulations, national regulations, and also betting regulations. I'm sorry, international treaties is better. So like I said, the IOC a year ago created mandatory rules that all international federations had to implement. So as a result, the IIHF implemented our code of conduct. Our code of conduct, section 3, controls all issues of match fixing, all issues of betting on ice hockey, and insider information. So essentially, our code of conduct, Article 6, all coaches are obligated to follow our code of conduct, either directly by the code of conduct indicating coach by name, or you guys are considered as the support personnel of players. So it prohibits coaches from betting on all ice hockey games, irrespective of whether or not you are a participant or you are not participant. You cannot bet on ice hockey. And if you are a coach in the Olympics or a multi-sport event, such as the European Olympics or anything that involves more than one sport, you cannot bet on ice hockey and you cannot bet on any other sport in that multi-sport event. Second, coaches are obviously prohibited from manipulating a game, and also they're prohibited from giving insider information to persons who they know will bet. So, like I said, it's not having the insider information. Obviously, as coaches, you're going to have all of the information. It's just you can't give it to someone who could bet. And a lot of times this happens by accident. Maybe you're being on your social media, your Facebook page, or maybe you get on your team's social media page and not thinking you make a statement. All of those things are technically considered giving insider information. So sometimes before you maybe get on your social media or get on the club social media, you should just stop and think, hey, is this going to help someone manipulate or help someone bet for an advantage on my event? The sanctions can be quite nothing, a warning, okay, no big deal, maybe a fine. For some coaches, for some clubs, that can be a big deal. You can be suspended for a certain number of games or for a certain period of time, but you can be suspended for life. So you cannot partake in any further ice hockey activities. So then you have all of your jurisdictions, okay, not all, most of your jurisdictions will have some type of national or state law. For example, Germany has a national law, but each of their individual states also has control over what is or is not allowed in betting. National laws are changing. Historically, a lot of countries don't have national laws, or for example, with the United States, they have completely made it illegal except in certain states, but that's changing. Like for example, in the US, a lot of states are trying to allow betting, and it's actually going up to the federal government to decide whether or not they have the ability to bet. So your jurisdictions are changing, and they're changing specifically as a result of the increase in sports betting. However, as I mentioned before, doping is easy. We have the WADA Code. We are starting to get similar types of international treaties. The Convention on the Manipulation of Sporting Events was created by the European Council. 27 member states have signed on to this. Only 3 have currently ratified it. We have to have 2 more ratifications before it actually becomes considered a directive, and this EU countries have to implement it. But essentially, not only European countries can sign on to this, but any country around the world. The United States can, Canada can, and the objective is to really to kind of consolidate or make the laws similar across all the jurisdictions. It's prevention and cooperation, exchange of information, implementation of a criminal law in the national jurisdictions, sanctionings, and the key, like I said, is international cooperation. We're trying to get rules that will be equal to all so that we don't have an ice hockey player in, let's say, the United States and an ice hockey player in Germany who have done the exact same crime, and one's got a lifetime ban and one is serving, a 2-month ban. We want to make it equal across all jurisdictions. And it's kind of the idea behind this convention. This convention, like I said, has been started. It's been signed by ratified by 3 countries. However, there's many countries that have already started to implement the platform. It's called the Macallan Platform. And as you can see from our World Championships, the countries in bold are the countries that are in the process or actually have implemented the Macallan platform. And the companies that are italicized, such as Germany, are the countries in the process of implementing the Macallan platform. As a result of the implementation of this, France is actually watching every single one of our events before the government is. Before the government started to watch our events, we basically did a risk assessment of the World Championships so that we knew which events and which games we had to, I guess you could say, watch more carefully, which games had a high risk of being manipulated. Just to kind of give you guys an idea of what we determined is that the teams that are able to qualify with no risk of relegation. So those teams that are going to go up, this is for the Olympics, so that there's no risk that they're going to be relegated. Teams already qualified might want to choose their 1/4 final opponent. So they know that this is kind of the sporting manipulation. They know that, hey, if I lose this game, I will go into the quarterfinals and I'll play an easier team and I'll get to the finals. We determined those types of games are a higher risk. The situation with Denmark being protected, Denmark has no risk. They could lose and they're still going to go to the next World Championship. So that is a risk. It's a potential that they have no risk or they have no result if they lose. So, hey, let's get some money out of this event. And then the last game of the preliminary rounds are not all played at the same time. However, even with these risks, we still determined that the world ranking is at stake. It is important for the group ranking at the 2018 World Championships. So how they finish in this event will essentially determine the group ranking of 2018. And also for the match sequences of 2018. Like how they finish will determine who they play and how the game schedule will be for 2018. So that has a significant impact. And also the Olympic qualification is always at risk. So even though we determined that there's certain things that are nothing at stake, which is more susceptible to match fixing, we also determined that, hey, these players still will want to do good because of these reasons. And this is essentially what the French government, in connection with the French Federation and the German Federation and the IIHF, used to determine the risk of every single game that is watched during the World Championships. And we actually have a conference call every Tuesday and Thursday about what is going on. So every single thing, every risk, everything, the French government lets us know and then possibly investigate. So after you do legislation, similar to what the French government does, the question is how do we monitor these events? How do we know that no one's betting on them? I mean, how would you figure that out? The IIHF has a partnership with a company called Sport Radar and also the IOC. Sport Radar watches our under 20s, our top event, our under 20s, our world championships, and our under 18s. And so anytime there was anything irregular, anytime the bookmakers across the world detect something irregular, we get notified about it. And then as a result of that notification, we start an investigation. EBIS, which is the IOC system, watches all ice hockey events. We actually just changed the partnership, the MOU, so whether it's a league event, whether it's a national, two national team friendly games, every single event in ice hockey is being watched, and the IIHF gets notified if there's any irregularities in any ice hockey event. And then, obviously, we only investigate those which we have jurisdiction over, such as national federations or the IIHF events, but we will notify the federations and the leagues, and then they can proceed. With that said, it's not, the IIHF still even has jurisdiction over the leagues, because if we give it to the leagues and the federations and they make the decision to do nothing, the IIHF can go and investigate. That's written into our code of conduct and our bylaws, that if the federations choose to do nothing, we still have power over to go and investigate. So we have rules that prevent it. We investigate it, and we have mechanisms to detect it. And the last thing we do is awareness raising and education. That's both done through the sport movement and through law enforcement. You think, we're not here to be police, and we're not here just to be regulators. The key, similar to doping, is education. Educating the coaches, educating the players, making sure that they're aware of the rules and that they can't do it. Most of the cases that I've experienced in ice hockey or any sport is the players or the coaches, they just didn't know. They didn't know the rules. This happens a lot in doping. This happens the same way in match fixing. There's so many coaches and there's so many players to educate that they just don't know the rules. So that is what we're focusing on. We're focusing on education. We're relying on you as coaches to get the message out there. Let your players know, hey, you can't do this. This is wrong. This is illegal. And to do so, we've created, I guess you could say, an education program. We're trying to increase it. We're trying to make it bigger. We're trying to make it better. Right now, we have some pamphlets that we use to hand out to educate the players, to educate coaches. This is something that if you guys want, that it's completely free to any coach, to any club, to any player that wants it. We can give you the PDF of it, and you guys can print it. You can translate it into different languages. We want to get the message out there. So anything that you need from the IIHF to help you do that is what we want. Additionally, we have created a video that I'll let you guys watch now that is on match fixing.
Hello, my name is Kirill Starkov, and I'm a professional Danish ice hockey player. In 2014, while playing in the Danish Elite League, I made the mistake that affected my career and everything I've worked for the past 12 years. I would like you to take a moment and some time to listen to my story so you don't do the same mistakes as I did. In 2014, I was at the peak of my career and I had realized my childhood dream. I was 21 years old and a member of the national team, having already played 4 world championships, including the one in Russia. I was one of the best players in the Danish league with an excellent scoring record. But everything changed after I bet on my own game. Like many people, I found betting entertaining. I was giving the heads up from a teammate about some excellent odds on one of the games I was due to play. And I placed a bet that the opposing team would score 1 goal within the first 2 periods. While it didn't cross my mind that I was doing anything wrong, betting on games you were involved in is strictly forbidden. It didn't matter that I was playing my absolute best and I tried to do everything I could for our team to win. And I had no influence in the opposing team's ability to score. Unfortunately for me, I was unaware of IIHF integrity rules in ice hockey and how much trouble I was getting myself into by placing this bet. My teammate was caught, and I felt really guilty in my involvement and worried about the consequences. After coming forward to the authorities, I was fined, fired from my league team, and suspended from the national team. I couldn't participate in the upcoming World Championship. Having lost my well-paid job of 3 years, I suffered financially. My poor judgment put my teammates, my friends, in a very bad position. Worst of all, it put my career and everything I work for in jeopardy over a small bet. I want to help you to avoid making the same mistakes as I did. Please, let me explain you the 3 situations relating to integrity violation that you could face that could put your career at risk and what you should do in each situation. The first violation is match fixing. Match fixing is the act of influencing the progress or result of a game, contrary to sporting ethics. This could be anything from playing accepting money in return for being less committed during a game, to goalkeeper deliberately allowing in a goal. As you can imagine, this instance of match fixing would influence the outcome of a game and a serious integrity violations. For example, you're out with some of your teammates for a meal after a game. As you're leaving the restaurant, you're approached by a fan who talks about the last 4 games that your team has been playing. The individual says, "Why should you carry the team on your back? Why wouldn't you take it easy the next game?" In return, he promised to give you 1,000 euros. This is called match fixing. It's illegal. And the maximum penalty is a lifetime ban from hockey. The second integrity violation is betting on ice hockey. No matter how you place a bet, be it for or against your team to win, and even if you play with 100% commitment to the game, if you're involved in ice hockey, then betting on it is wrong. And the maximum penalty is a lifetime ban from ice hockey. Just imagine, your next game is against the worst team in the league. It should be an easy win. And you attempt to turn some little money on the side, betting on your team to win. And you don't see any problem with that, as you won't be initially manipulating the outcome of the game. However, it doesn't matter. Placing any bets on a game that you're involved in is wrong. The third violation is providing a third party with any private information about your team that should not be made public. Due to your position within hockey, you are likely to have access to sensitive team information, such as player injuries, team lineup, that third parties could use to affect the outcome of a game and obtain unfair betting advantage. There is nothing wrong with having this information, so long as you don't share it with people outside your team, such as friends, business associates. Also, be very careful what you post on social medias, such as Facebook and Twitter. For example, imagine that you are in the locker room getting ready for a game. The coach is talking through the lineup for the game and the game plan, and discusses the status of injured players within the medical staff. Such information will be very valuable to certain people, such as people associated with rival teams who may offer you payment to share certain information. It is absolutely forbidden for players to share or sell inside information, and doing so carries a maximum penalty of a lifetime ban from ice hockey. Thank you for listening to my story. Remember, the IIHF and your national federation are there to protect you and help make your career a success. You should feel comfortable in reporting any concerns that you may have. You can contact them at integrity@iihfoffice.com. Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry. It's just this one. Are we going to hit that? Oh. Sorry. Okay. In addition to being able to contact the IIHF or the players going to federations or coaches, the IOC now has a completely anonymous hotline that they've created that is available to all sports people around the world, whether or not they're in the Olympic movement or they're not in the Olympic movement. So if you want to report something but you want to stay anonymous due to the fact that you're concerned about the consequences of reporting, you can always report the IOC through the IOC, and the IOC would get in contact with the IIHF. So the main thing with this presentation is that not only can you guys be approached because of your ability to influence the game, but also you need to be aware. You need to be aware for your players. You need to educate your players so that they are aware of the rules so that they don't inadvertently make a mistake. So you should try to have a person within your organization that knows the rules, that's dealing with it. It's not necessarily that's their only job. Like, they can deal with doping, they can deal with many things. They can be the front office just so that they know the rules and that you can tell your players, hey, if you have an issue or if you have an issue, you know who to go to. Know the facts and be up to date. Just be aware of what's going on. The IIHF has rules, your national federation might have rules, your national legislation might have rules. Just be aware of them so that you don't inadvertently make a mistake. You be aware of the various forms, the idea that it could be political, know the possibilities for addressing the problem, know what to do to solve it. Most important thing is just speak up. Tell somebody, tell the IIHF, tell someone so that it becomes aware of it and you are not in any way implicated as being an accomplice or somehow being involved. The best thing to do is the first thing you learn about it, just report it. Know who to contact, the IIHF, the IOC, and I think that the most important thing as coaches is to be available. Be available to your players. Make sure that they feel comfortable coming to you with these types of issues. Whether it's doping or match fixing, they need to know that, hey, if you come to me, this is a safe place, we'll deal with it together, we'll take care of it. So I think, my opinion, the best thing to be aware of as coaches is just to be available to your players. And that's it. Thank you for your attention.